Welcome to AP's On Football with me, Rob Maaddi. The NFL preseason got off to an awesome start with an exciting Hall of Fame game, probably the most entertaining one that I've covered, Carolina rallying to beat Arizona. All the teams will play this week. Best action we're going to see will be in the joint practices. Those are underway with most starters sitting out the games. They'll get their reps against opponents in the joint sessions. Be a lot of fighting in some of those too as well. We have two great guests this week. I'll take you inside the huddle with Las Vegas Raiders quarterback Kirk Cousins. Fantasy Focus will be part two of my conversation with ESPN's Field Yates. A look at some of those injuries already creeping in around the league. Pro Picks, we'll look at some player props, and I'll have a final word on those running back contracts. Four-time Pro Bowl quarterback Kirk Cousins is in his first season with the Las Vegas Raiders, who drafted Heisman Trophy winner and national champion Fernando Mendoza with the number one overall pick in the draft in April. Cousins is a proven veteran, but Mendoza is the face of the future. When will he get his first start? That's going to be the top storyline for the Raiders entering the season. Here is my conversation with Kirk. We talked before he got into that scuffle with Max Crosby at practice. Kirk, thanks for coming on the show. What excited you about this opportunity to play in Las Vegas, where, unlike Atlanta, you knew going in that the Raiders were going to draft the number one quarterback, and you were happy and willing to go there?
Well, we prayed about it, felt led to go there. You never know why, you never know what's going to happen, but if you feel a peace about it, I felt that was in and of itself good enough for me. But what led to the peace, largely may have been just having a comfort level with the coaches, having worked with Clint Kubiak and Andrew Janocko and Rick Dennison on a prior staff, and was just kind of excited for the opportunity to get a fresh start and be a part of them building something, and we'll see where it leads. But I think that's kind of where it started.
Having that familiarity with Clint in Minnesota, and then seeing the success that he had last year in Seattle, winning the Super Bowl with Sam Darnold, how do you approach going into this season, getting that chance to work with him again?
Yeah, I think it helps to kind of hit the ground running and have a shared history. I think anytime you have continuity or shared history with coaches or players, it just helps you move faster and have built some trust. And so I think that's a positive, but in today's NFL, it's more of a luxury than a common thing. It seems like there's just so much turnover and so much change that you have to kind of be able to hit the reset button every spring, and so that's part of it as well. And I have a lot of new teammates that I've learned through OTAs. Got to get to know them, and that's what the spring was all about, was kind of getting to know everybody and getting comfortable within the facility in so many different ways.
There have been some quarterbacks in the past who didn't exactly embrace a mentorship role. Brett Favre with Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay, Joe Montana and Steve Young in San Francisco. Kirk, how do you view being a mentor to Fernando in his rookie season?
I would just say that, on one hand, certainly, happy to be a resource, and he'll learn. We'll all learn from each other so much in the quarterback room. I've always said that the quarterback room is kind of a working force together, where we're all giving each other feedback, giving each other thoughts, asking questions. Wanting to get a feel from the pulse of the room. What do you think here? What should we do differently, or what are we doing well? So there's always good dialogue. I'd hate to emphasize the mentoring thing too much, in the sense that it makes it look like I know so much and he doesn't. When I think in reality, we all have something to share. We all can help one another, and that's how the good quarterback rooms operate.
So much is said about Tom Brady being a part owner of the Raiders and Fernando being able to learn from him, but you as a veteran who has accomplished so much, four-time Pro Bowler, still, how much can you take from Tom, Kirk?
Well, there's a lot you can take from Tom. So much experience. He's been in the fire and seen it, at the highest of levels. And he's a phone call away, and he makes himself available. And what a tremendous resource. So, I just want to be a good question asker when he is around, and learn from what he's done. And I think it will continue to be a great resource moving forward.
Throughout your career, you've overcome doubts, you've handled adversity well, and all the criticism anytime you've had to face that. You're in a situation where no doubt there's going to be some noise. The Raiders should do this, they should do that. How do you block it out?
Well, you just go play football. You kind of insulate yourself. You certainly listen to the voices that matter. You know, your coaches, your teammates. You know, when they're telling you something, then that's what we're doing. But I don't think you need to listen to outside voices. And then you just go do your job the way I've known to do it for 15 years. You do the best you can, and then you kind of let outcomes go where they go. You know, I think when you stay focused, you kind of stay in your lane, you keep blinders on. I think that's when I play my best. And that's kind of the process I've employed through every situation I've been in, every team, every season, no matter what the journey of that season brought on. You kind of keep a similar perspective, stay consistent, and that's what we'll do again this year.
You partnered with Bank of America this summer to host a Golf With Us clinic in Grand Rapids. Kirk, how much can kids learn about life from playing golf, from being out on that course, just the physical and the mental aspect?
Yeah, part of the reason Bank of America is doing this is to not only, you know, open access to golf to so many kids by making it more affordable, but also emphasizing the life principles that you learn on the golf course. I mean, I got my son right here, and we play a lot of golf together, and it's certainly an awesome way for us to spend time together, quality time as a family. In fact, on Mother's Day, I said to my wife, "What do you want to do?" She said, "I want to play golf with the boys." So that's what we did. I'm not complaining. I'm happy to go play golf on Mother's Day. But it is a great way for us to spend time, but it also teaches my boys what it means to fail, how you handle success, you know, with humility, how you handle failure with grace and patience, and not riding the emotional roller coaster, which I also have to do as a quarterback, you know, to kind of just stay steady. You got to do the same thing on the golf course. So there's a mental toughness, there's a resilience, there's a character, there's class, how you relate to opponents. So I think golf can not only teach you those traits, but it can also reveal those traits and kind of show you, where you're at right now in developing those traits. So Bank of America was really smart to be able to do this, not just here in Grand Rapids, but nationwide. 185,000 kids they've given access to this program. So pretty special and really fun. Being from West Michigan, being from the Grand Rapids area, to be able to come to the local course club and be a part of what they're doing here. It's a privilege for us.
Around the league, we're already seeing major injuries, and that's the tough thing with football. It's a violent sport. Guys get hurt from all the physical hitting, all that activity going out there on the field. Then there's the freak injuries that happen, non-contact stuff, and it stinks. The Saints lost a couple starters already. Defensive tackle Ryan Brzee and guard Dylan Radins, they're gone for the season with ACL tears. Lions lost starting center Cade Mays. He's got a hand fracture. He's going to be out for a while. Running back Isaiah Pacheco has an MCL tear. He should return. The Commanders with a tough loss. Left tackle Laramie Tunsil tore his triceps. Carolina Panthers lost edge rusher Nick Scourton to a torn ACL first day of training camp. And Bears just lost safety Kobe Bryant to a knee injury. Could be some injury issues in San Francisco. What else is new? Mike Evans hasn't practiced in 5 days at one point because of a quad injury. Something to watch out for. It's only August. January's a long way to go, but the last team standing is usually the healthiest team. We analyzed the Jaguars and Ravens over-under wins last week in Pro Picks. Let's look at some player props this time. One passing, one rushing, one receiving. Aaron Rodgers' passing yards is at 3,050.5 yards. I know he's 42, but he's never been under 3,300 yards in a season where he played double-digit games. He's back with Mike McCarthy. He obviously knows the offense. It's his second year with DK Metcalf. The Steelers went out and added Michael Pittman. I'll take Aaron Rodgers over 3,050.5 yards. At running back, Ashton Genty's over-under is 975.5 yards. He had 975 last season when the Raiders were absolutely a mess. They were terrible. Clint Kubiak's offensive system starts with running the ball. That's going to help Cousins and Mendoza if and when he plays. Genty over 975.5 unless he gets hurt. Seems like an easy one. All-Pro tight end Trey McBride's receiving total is at 950.5. He's been over 1,100 yards each of the last two seasons. He's going to be Jacoby Brissett's go-to guy again. on a team and an offense that should struggle this season, even though Mike LaFleur's taken over. If the Cardinals end up starting Carson Beck, he pushes the ball downfield, but tight ends are every rookie quarterback's best friend. I'll take McBride over 950.5. ESPN fantasy football analyst Field Yates joined me last week and talked running backs, receivers. Here's part 2 of that conversation with Field. Field, we got to talk quarterbacks, and I think Josh Allen's probably considered the number one guy. Would you feel that way? Lamar, where do you put him in that? Can he bounce back a little bit? And what do you think of Patrick Mahomes coming back off? How far would you be scared to touch Patrick?
So Josh Allen to me is sort of a one-man tier at his position because the best version of Lamar Jackson or even Patrick Mahomes can compete with Josh Allen. We're doing our best, though, to deal in known quantities. And over the past 6 seasons, Josh Allen's been the number 1 scoring quarterback 4 separate times. The other 2 times, he was the second highest scoring quarterback. So there's a security in drafting Josh Allen that no other player at the quarterback spot offers. With fantasy, though, one of the most important things to educate our drafters on is what we call value-based drafting, which is you could get Josh Allen probably somewhere in the second or early third round in most drafts. The problem is that you could also get, and I'm just throwing a name out there, Trevor Lawrence in the 12th round, and Trevor was exceptional, especially in the second half last season. He had 9 rushing touchdowns. He was totally on fire down the stretch. Confidence is through the roof right now in Jacksonville. So Josh, to me, belongs in a one-man tier. I don't know that Josh, when you draft him where you're probably going to have to, represents the best value because there are good quarterbacks that will be available later. Lamar Jackson's my second-ranked quarterback this year. I'm banking on a reinvigorated Lamar Jackson, a player who has a new system that he's going to be working in. Declan Doyle, their play caller, is a first-time play caller, but he's got really good he's got good surroundings. He spent last year, I should say, with Ben Johnson, was the offensive coordinator for the Bears, not calling plays, but I sort of believe in the Ben Johnson effect on these young coaches. And Mahomes, I am higher on than my fellow colleagues at ESPN. I believe I have him ranked 8th amongst quarterbacks. A little bit of that is budgeting for not him being unavailable in week 1, but Rob, is he going to run around like he did so much last year? Probably not, right? They're going to protect him. When he had his significant kneecap injury after a quarterback sneak against Denver on Thursday Night Football a handful of years ago, it was the last time we saw Patrick Mahomes quarterback sneak. The Chiefs know how much he means to their franchise, and they are not going to compromise him by having him running all over the field. He's going to scramble. It's part of his game. But I also think Patrick, like A.J. Brown, fits into the category of trying to prove some people wrong this year. So I've seen others dip him a little bit lower. I have him as the 8th quarterback on my board.
Man, Field, great stuff. I've got to ask you one last one. Is there a favorite sleeper? Is there a guy who people maybe may not be as high on that you think can sneak in and be a productive impact fantasy player?
I'll tell you, let's go for a deep cut, Rob, because I've realized over the years, people ask me for sleepers. I give them a name and they go, I drafted him 3 times last month. So people are getting so much smarter. The NFL is so popular that you got to dig deep. And this is a player that, based off of what we call average draft position, early average draft position at ESPN, we're combing through all the data and saying, all right, we've had 3,000 mocks. Here's how they've shaped out so far. We've had many more than 3,000. We're probably at about 103,000 by now. Brennan Thompson, the wide receiver for the Los Angeles Chargers, is probably never being drafted other than leagues involving Brennan Thompson's family. He's a 4th-round pick out of Mississippi State, led the SEC in receiving last year, fastest player at the Combine, feels like a Mike McDaniel type of guy. He's not Tyreek Hill as far as ability. He's not as thick, especially in the upper half, as Tyreek Hill, but he was the most explosive player amongst wide receivers in last year's draft class. This guy is super dynamic, and Justin Herbert has an absolute cannon of an arm. There are a decent amount of mouths to feed there in Los Angeles, but Brennan Thompson is my deep, deep sleeper for 2026.
Bill, now that you've said it, I think he's going to get drafted in a few leagues, at least a few more outside of his family, man. So
at least indulge me, Rob, and take him in one of your leagues. That's all I need, just one.
I'm going to try. Field, appreciate your time, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's the final word, and running backs got paid. Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan Robinson, Jonathan Taylor signed new contracts in the same week. They're now the 3 highest paid running backs in the NFL. They surpassed Saquon Barkley and Christian McCaffrey. Gibbs is getting an average of $22.5 million per season. He's number one. He topped Robinson, who's at 22.25, and Taylor at $22 million per season. But guess what? They are still grossly underpaid when you compare that to wide receivers who are making almost double. Jackson Smith-Njigba, he's at 42+ million per season. Jamar Chase, over 40 million. And how about this? Drake London is at 35 million per season. There are 25 receivers making more than Gibbs and Robinson. That's 25. Gibbs, Robinson, CMC are out there running, catching, blocking in pass pro. They're taking way more hits than receivers, and they're also getting more yardage. The top 6 scrimmage yards leaders last year, they were all running backs. Robinson led the league with almost 2,300 total yards from scrimmage. London, his teammate, was 50th in the NFL with 919, yet he's making 13 million more. How's that make sense? Running backs need to get their own union. The lesson here is simple. Parents, don't let your babies grow up to be running backs. Make sure they play wide receiver. That's it for this week. Thank you to Kirk Cousins and Field Yates, and thank you for watching and listening to AP's On Football with me, Rob Maaddi. Make sure you download and subscribe on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast.